slowly, he walked ahead of the car, testing routes and returning, either shaking his head or waving angrily, with power. Either shaking his head or waving, and on. Around them, thin veils of frost steam lofted into the falling snow, the two mixing and gusting off together in the powerful evening wind. I love that I'm reading this, okay? I'm trying really hard. I nailed that sentence. Y'all don't even know how hard that was. Off into the murk. Yes. It was really windy today, actually. I feel like that helped. It's been, like, I don't know. It's really weird when the book matches up with real life. When it's mixing and gusting together up into the falling snow. Off into the murk. Watching the dark spectacle of one hard gust. Oof. Watching the dark spectacle of one hard gust. Anne misread the configuration of the ice's meeting with the ground, which was hard to see in any case, and the rover ran up onto a rock round, or ran up onto a round rock right at the frozen shoreline, lifting the left rear wheel off the ground. Oof. Anne gunned the front wheels to roll them over the rock, but they dug into a patch of sand and snow. And suddenly, both rear wheels were barely touching the ground, while the front two merely spun in the holes that they had dug. She had run the rover aground. God damn it, Anne. They're gonna kick her out of the rover. Ugh. She had run the rover aground. It had happened before several times, but she was annoyed with herself for getting distracted by the irrelevant spectacle of the sky. Called AAA. What the fuck are you doing? Frank shouted over the intercom. Anne jumped in her chair. She would never get used to Frank's biting vehemence. Get going, he shouted. I ran it onto a rock, she said. Damn you. Why don't you watch where you're going? Here, stop the wheels. Stop them. I'm gonna put the grip cloths under the front wheels and lever you forward. And then you get it off this rock and up the slope as quick as you can. Understand? There's another surge coming. Frank, Maya cried. Get inside. As soon as I get the fucking pads down. Be ready to go. The pads were strips of spiked metal mesh. I don't know why they didn't bring kitty litter. Okay, the pads were strips of spiked metal mesh set under the wheels that had dug holes into the sand, and then pegged ahead so that the wheels had something to grip. An ancient desert method. And Frank ran around the front of the rover, cursing under his breath, and snapping directions to Anne, who obeyed with her teeth clenched and her stomach knotted. Okay, go, Frank shouted. Go! Get in first, Anne cried. There's no time. Go! It's almost here. I'll hang on the side. Go, damn it, go! So Anne gently accelerated the front wheels and felt them catch on the grips and scrape the car forward over the rock until the rear wheels touched down again. And they scraped off and were free. But the roar of the flood suddenly doubled and redoubled behind them. And then there were chunks of ice bounding past the car, bursting along with a hideous cracking. And then the ice was overwhelmed by a dark wave of steaming, bubbling slurry. A surge that washed up over the windows of the car. Oh shit. And floored the accelerator and held the wheel with a death grip as it bounced in her hands. Mixed with the crashing of the surge wave, she heard Frank's voice shouting, "Go, idiot, go!" I need to laugh or I'll cry. What if they all die? They've killed all of the characters so far. These are like the last 6 people alive. I don't know if they're super... Go, idiot, go! And then they were hit hard, and the car slewed off to the left, out of control. Anne hung on to the wheel as it threw her from side to side. Her left ear throbbed with pain. She had hit something with it. She held onto the wheel and kept her foot jamming the accelerator to the floor. The wheels caught on something, and the rover ground through water. They were rolling through water. It poured from right to left, and there was a dull banging against the side of the car. Go! She kept the accelerator floored and turned uphill, bouncing wildly in the driver's seat. Monka steer. Okay, guys. I saw, oh my god, dude. Okay, hold on. The water, the blah, blah, blah. The wheels caught on something. The rover ground through the water. They were rolling through the water. It poured from right to left, and there was a dull banging against the side of the car. Go! She kept the accelerator floored and turned uphill, bouncing wildly in the driver's seat. All the windows and TV screens. Liquid madness. Then the water ran under the rover, and the windows were clear. The rover's headlights showed rocky ground, falling snow, and ahead a bare flat area. Anne kept it floored and jounced wildly toward it, the flood still roaring behind them. When she reached the flat rise, she had to pull her leg and foot away from the accelerator with her hands. The car stopped. They were above the flood, on a narrow bench terrace, and it looked like the surge was already receding. But Frank Chalmers was gone. They're making this very hard to finish in a single session. You fucking idiot, drive, go! R.I.P. Bozo. Frank died doing what he loved, calling Anne an idiot. Dude, it's beautiful. That's poetry. That is prose, my brother. Damn. Maybe he lived. I've been waiting this whole time for this moment. Is he really dead, dude? I don't even know what to think. He's just gonna pop up and be like, "Hey guys, I I got stuck. I'm here." Oh no. He probably is dead, I would say. Well, I forgot what I was gonna say. I'm freaking out, man. Oh, I was gonna say something. Since we're reaching the end, I don't really know what else is gonna happen, but we're almost done. But nobody else say anything. All right, don't say anything. I'm like, okay. Wait, maybe never mind. Maybe it's too early. I'll talk about the book later. No, so wait, I was gonna make a joke, like, when I first heard about this book and I, like, read what it was kind of about, like it spans, like, I think all 3 books span a couple hundred years. And so I was like, oh, like, all the original characters are gonna die, and there's gonna be a bunch of characters over 200 years. Cool. You know, like, obviously everyone in the first book isn't gonna be around in the second book, but then in the middle of the first book, like right about here, they're like, oh, we invented a vaccine to cure old age. Like, you can be young forever. Some of these characters were going to live for 200 years minimum. And I was like, oh, damn, that's crazy. So, like, all the same, like, all the main characters are gonna be in the next book, too? You know, and I was like, okay, that's not what I was expecting, but whatever. None of this has been what I expected. So, okay, all the main characters are gonna go through the next book, too. Now they're all fucking dead, anyways. That was kind of hard for me to summarize, but that was, like, the thing I'm laughing at in my head. I'm like, dude, are they all just gonna die by, like, fucking car accidents instead? That seems real, but okay. So, I don't know. I never know what to expect, honestly. Expectations are dashed. And then if I have... Somehow, this book managed to dash my expectations when I had 0 expectations. Yes. And if you still listened closely to the Martian winds to this day, you can still hear idiot, idiot. He's going to join John in the great mythology. I do understand why he was being so mean now. He's like, God damn it, Anne, drive! But Frank Chalmers was gone. Maya insisted that they return and look for him. As it was likely that the initial surge would be the largest one, they did so. But it was futile. Oh no, dude. Are they gonna find his body? That's the only way you can know for sure. Because the initial surge would be the largest, they did so, but it was futile. In the twilight, the headlights cut 50 meters into the snowfall. And the 2 intersecting yellow cones and the dark gray world outside them, they saw only the ragged surface of the flood. A pouring sea of flotsam and jetsam, without the slightest hint of any regular shape. In fact, it looked like a world in which such shapes were impossible. No one could survive in such madness. Do you think his last go was after he lost his grip? Don't make me cry, bro. And then also I was gonna laugh with my last breath. What was it? Where is it? With my last breath, I curse Zoidberg. Yeah. And if his last go was after he lost his grip, that would melt my frozen heart on Mars. Fuck you, Frank. Oh. It was impossible. No one could survive in such madness. Frank was gone. Either knocked out. I cannot believe that. Like, I'm like, he was the main political antagonist. But also, so was Arcady, and so was John, and so is everybody, dude. I think Anne and I think they're all about to die. I don't even know. The last sentence of this book is gonna be like, and then a meteor crushed them all. And we decided to never go to Mars again. Frank was gone, either knocked off the car in its jouncing or swept off it in its brief and nearly fatal encounter with the wave. His final curses still seemed to bubble out of the static on the intercom, out of the roar of the flood. Dude, you guys weren't joking. You can still hear it to this day. Every time the water breaks, the floods roar, you can hear it. Frank is literally still screaming. His final impressions rang in Anne's ears like the judgment they were. Go, idiot, go. It had been her fault. All her fault. Maya was weeping, choking on sobs, doubling over her stomach as if it was cramping. No, she cried. Frank, we have to look for him. Then she was crying too hard to speak. Sax went over and dug into the medicine chest and walked over to her and crouched by her side. Here, Maya, do you want a sedative? And she uncoiled and dashed the pills from his hand. No, she screamed. They're my feelings. They're my men. Men? Plural? Do you think I'm a coward? Do you think that I would want to be a zombie like you? She collapsed into helpless, involuntary, racking sobs. Sax stood over her, blinking, face twisted with a stricken look. All of the characters are suffering so much. I was like, oh, you're a bitch, you're a dick. Like, why do I feel so much pity for them all? And also, I swear to God, if this book ends with like, and then Frank and Arcady and John all stepped out from behind the curtain and said, actually, we faked our deaths, I'm throwing this book in a fire pit. I'll throw this book at a wall. And it's going to explode into dust because it's like 100 years old. I'm so angry. I'm so emotional right now. Okay, I swear to God, if I shed a tear over Frank fucking Chalmers, and then you psych me out later, I'm gonna be pissed. Please, please. Okay, she collapsed into helpless, involuntary, racking sobs. Shut up, Roar. Sax stood over her, blinking, face twisted with a stricken look. Anne found herself cut to the quick by that look. Please, she said. Please, please. Who's she? Oh, Maya. Okay. Thank God for paragraphs. Please, she said. Please, please. She got up from the driver's... Wait, who is she? She got up from the drive... I think it's Anne and Maya. Or it's just Anne. She got up from the driver's seat, went back to them, and held Sax briefly by the arm. Oh, okay, Anne. Anne says please. I don't know why, but she does. They're my feelings, they're my men. Do you think I'm a coward? Do you think I would want to be a zombie like you? She collapsed into helpless sobs. Sax looked upset. Anne said, please, please, please. Please, please, please. She got up from the driver's seat, went back to them, and held Sax briefly by the arm. She crouched to help Nadia and Simon pick Maya up off the floor and get her to her bed. Already Maya was quieter, withdrawing from them. Peas. Thank you for that. I needed peas. She crouched. Already Maya was quieter, withdrawing from them, her eyes red and her nose running off in her own grief. One hand clenched in a death grip over Nadia's wrist. Nadia looked down at her with a doctor's detached expression, withdrawn in her own way, murmuring in Russian. Maya, I'm sorry, Anne said. I cannot fucking handle this. This is the most tragic scene I've ever heard, and I don't even like Frank. None of them even know that he's a bad guy, though, so that explains a lot, but... Maya lost John, and then Frank killed John, and Maya lost John and Frank, and then Nadia lost Arkady, and Anne thinks that she lost her son and Mars, and everything's going to fucking shit. And they're the only people they have left in the world. And now it's all fucked. Maya, I'm sorry. And Anne thinks it's her fault. No. Anne, my favorite character. Maya, I'm sorry, Anne said. Her throat was cramped. It hurt to talk. It was my fault. I'm sorry. Maya shook her head. It was an accident. Maya shook her head. It was an accident. Anne couldn't bring herself to say aloud that she had stopped paying attention. The words stuck in her throat, and another spasm of sobs racked Maya, and the chance to speak was gone. Michelle and Casey took over in the driver's seats and started to rover along the bench again. Not far east of that, the southern canyon wall finally sank down into the surrounding plain, and they were free to move away from the flood, which was in any case following Ao Chasma in a swing to the north, off to a distant reunion with Capri Chasma. Michelle ran across the Hidden Colonies trail, but lost it again, as the trail ducks were often buried in snow. He tried throughout all one day to locate a cache that he thought was nearby, but failed. Dude, Michelle's fucking useless. Michelle is my least favorite character. I'm kidding. I just need the anger to feel something. Can't find the cache. Can't fucking find the track. Idiot. Go, idiot, go. Do you even know where you're going right now? He lost the trail as the trail ducks were often buried in snow. He tried throughout all one day to locate a cache that he thought was nearby, but failed. Rather than waste more time, they decided to drive on at full speed. A bit north of east, toward the refuge they had been trying to reach, which Michelle said was in the broken terrain south of Orium Chasma. Or Orium Chaos. Dude, I hate these Martian names too. And fuck these Martian names. South of Orium Chaos. I'm pretty sure that's an Of Montreal song. It's not our main colony anymore, he explained to the others. It's where we went first. After we left Underhill. The only thing that would make this chapter better is the extensive use of the word pieced. I agree. There was almost another contender. I don't remember what it was though. Trough, maybe? I feel like I said trough like 50 times. It's where we went first after we left Underhill. But Hiroko wanted to leave for the south. And after a few years, we did. She said she didn't like this first shelter because Orium is a sink. And she thought it might become a lake someday. I think it's going to be a lake now. That's why they can't find it. It might become she thought it could become a lake someday. I thought that was crazy, but I see now that she was right. It looks like Orium may even be the final drainage for this flood. I don't know. But the refuge is at a higher elevation than we are now. So it will be okay. It may be empty of people, but it will be stocked with supplies. And any port in a storm, yes? No one had the spirit to reply. Alright, I'm gonna go piss.